All right, Jay, we're staying in the NFL. Moving on to the Week 18 preview. We're also looking at the NFL playoff picture. So, of course, this is the last week of the season. This 17-game schedule is finally coming to a close. It is so weird to be talking about the regular season in January, but yet here we are. But yeah, the playoff picture as a whole, your Titans are your 1 seed in the AFC. Chiefs and Bengals have a shot at that 1 seed. Bills, Patriots have both clinched, but kind of await their seeding. And then the Colts Chargers currently in that 6-7 spot, but they are on thin ice with the Raiders, the Steelers, and the Ravens all within striking distance out in the NFC. Like we mentioned, Aaron Rodgers and company locked up the 1 seed. Rams, Bucks, Cowboys, Cardinals all have their playoff berths in some order. And then the 49ers, or I'm sorry, the Eagles do as well. The 49ers are the 1 seed that doesn't have the playoff berth. It's either going to be them or the Saints out in the NFC. So the NFC a little more settled than the AFC. But overall, this weekend, what are the biggest games and who do you think is going to wind up in all this?
Well, I have to say, right off the cuff, it ties in with what we talked about Tuesday. The Chiefs really shot themselves in the foot with the way they lost to Cincinnati, because now, you put the number 1 seed and you put that first round bye in the hands of the Tennessee Titans. And to be fair, Tennessee has had some really odd games this year where they just lose to teams that just, I don't even know. It's like how they lost to the Jets. There was I'm spacing on who else they lost to that wasn't really good. It might have been Houston. Did they lose to Houston?
They lost to the Cardinals, the Jets. They lost to the Houston Texans at home. They lost to the Patriots that final week, and they also lost to the Steelers.
Okay, so you have a couple of really odd games. So it's not outside the realm that Houston could get them again, but you probably have to say that's unlikely at this point, and that's on Kansas City. So, and I do think, even though I don't think Tennessee is capable of getting to the Super Bowl unless Derrick Henry comes back and he's just everything he was, then you give him a shot. But I just think that's a big deal. You only get 1 first round bye in each conference now. I think Kansas City really hurt themselves. So you have that going on. There's still some seeding. I believe it needs to be decided. In the AFC particularly, you still got a lot of teams that technically could get in, although Baltimore, Pittsburgh, teams like that, they're going to need a lot of things to go right. Plus, one of those teams is going to be eliminated immediately, depending on who wins their matchup. So also Lamar Jackson not going to play again. Tyler Huntley will be under center again. Could be, Big Ben's final game. We had his final home game on Monday. This could be a final game period, depending on how the rest of it shakes out. I think in the I do have to say, lay out the scenario for me really quickly, if you would, of how the Chargers and Raiders could get into the playoffs. Right. With a tie if the Colts lose, right?
It's not happening because the Colts aren't going to lose Sunday. But let's just say, the team bus breaks down the way the stadium. They have to get the Jaguars to win or something, right? So what happens then is the Chargers and the Raiders both get in the event of a tie. Otherwise, whoever wins gets in, the loser doesn't, and then that last spot is opened up for Baltimore or Pittsburgh, depending on how their games go. So in theory, the Chargers and Raiders could just go, well, you know what? We both get in, shake hands, go out there, run the ball, or kneel it for 60 minutes.
But to me, but I have to get in there on that,
right?
Because that's a media-driven story, and to me, if not that Roger Goodell is particularly great at his job, but he's got to be like he has to be hopping mad at that type of storyline being floated, because the NFL flexed that game into the last game of the regular season because it matters. Because the winner of that game gets to the playoffs. So no one's going for, hey guys, you want to go to playoffs? Yeah. Hey, do y'all want to go? Hey, y'all want to both go? Remember in like grade school where you'd like do a mile run and you'd have like girls like they'd like hold hands crossing the finish line, that type of thing. That's what that would be. It's insane. And by the way, the Raiders and Chargers are like, I don't know, division rivals, so they don't like each other. So that's not happening. So that is one of the stupidest things I've heard. And I know it's early in 2022, but that's one of the stories that's taking the cake. That's a media-driven story, and they should stop that nonsense. That's the type of talking that losers do anyway. But with that being said, that's actually a compelling matchup because that's going to determine everything else will be decided, before that game. And then you'll have the NFL gets one more look to, one more playoff spot to get wrapped up. And, I really hope. I think the Chargers will get it done, in my estimation, because I just can't imagine a world where Rick Bisaccia or whatever the hell his name is does the thing in John Gruden's absence. I just and release the emails. Release the emails, by the way. But to the rest of it, really quickly, I think like I said, the NFC seems to be a little bit more together. So you have the Rams and Cardinals. What they do in their games is going to be critical because the NFC West and home playoff games could still be still up for grabs depending on how that goes. And then so the Rams 49ers game, that's going to be a huge one to watch because the Rams still have something to play for, and the 49ers need to win that game to get in because you have New Orleans playing Atlanta, so that's definitely a winnable game for the Saints. So, it's interesting that the 49ers today are in the 6th spot, but the 7th spot Eagles have clinched, and it's the 6th seed that right now that could get left out. As far as the other games that I think, would be worth watching, you have, I think both AFC, well, you have New England, Miami. I thought you had Buffalo. I thought Buffalo was playing Miami. Well, anyway, New England, Miami, don't forget, week 1, Miami won that game and then went on a 7-game losing streak. And then they was just on a 7-game winning streak and then they just lost. So they've had a ridiculously weird season. It'll be interesting to see how they finish up. New England, just like I said about the NFC West, AFC East, still not yet decided. New England still have a shot. I think Buffalo would have to lose their game, I guess, against the Jets. So that home playoff game still up for grabs as well. But yeah, look, the big one is the Sunday night game with the Chargers and Raiders. I tell you what game is not the one to watch. I don't know why they even bother. I don't know why they bother putting Denver on national television on Saturday. What a way to kick it off. I tell you what, the Chiefs losing last week was bad news for Denver because Denver's about to get killed tomorrow.
Just get the anger game taken out on them. Yeah, it's I think this playoff format is interesting because with only the 1 seed, like I have to wonder if there's really a lot of difference in 2 or 3 or 4 with these, wild card games. Like as long as you're in that top echelon, do you really care that much? And I guess the answer would be no. So some of these teams like the Bengals, for example, they're not going to play Joe Burrow. They're going to let him rest. It'll be the Brandon Allen show versus it's not the Baker Mayfield show either. So it's like just a complete, whatever's going on out there. But yeah, that scenario is interesting. They brought it up last week, right when we first realized what had happened. I mean, again, the Colts aren't going to lose, but to me, it brings up the 2 things. One, we don't need to have ties in the NFL when you get rid of that crap. We should have gotten rid of it a long time ago, in my opinion. There's no ties in sporting events. It's ridiculous. But my thing too is, why are these games not flexed in the way they're all kind of playing at the same time? Like if you have games that have legitimate in or out of I'm not so much talking about seeding, right? But like games that make or break who gets in the playoffs. Why aren't those games all 4:25 kicks, or why aren't they all 1:00 kick? Like why is that even possible for them to know that? I mean, they could guess that the Jaguars aren't going to win the game, sure, but like, I mean, why would we even set it up to where we would know that both these teams can just go out there and lay down and they're going to go to the playoffs? I mean, you say that there's no way it's going to happen, and you're right, but you think about it in a purely logical perspective. Yeah, I mean, I can get in the playoffs. Knowing my players are going to be hurt, I basically get a bye. I mean, yep. It's like, you're right. They're not going to do that. And obviously, Goodell behind closed doors be like, listen, I'm gonna choke slam both of y'all. I'm gonna pay somebody to choke slam both of y'all if you do that. I'll bring John Gruden back. I'll bring him back. He'll come back and he'll just be running around the building,
And he'll call Vontaze Burfict.
Yeah, okay. We'll get all the email, like you said, get all the emails released. So they're not going to do it, but it's like, why is this even something we're talking about? Why is it even possible? Why is this not set up? Like, why not have every game say kick at 3:00 on the weekend before the playoffs or something? Just even it out to where there's no question about who's playing what and when. But
yeah,
I don't know. So I guess some West Coast teams won't want to play at noon. But yeah, I mean, for the most part, you ran it down pretty well.
That's probably the biggest, like, just the if you got the Rams and you got Rams, 49ers, Seahawks, Cardinals. I mean, they have to be afternoon games because if you put them on at 1, then they're playing at 10 their time.
Right.
So
exactly.
I mean, that's probably the biggest thing. But I do get where you're coming from. Like, for example, one thing perhaps that could be worth watching is, what if you left Indy and Jacksonville at 1, and then, let's just say Indianapolis, was to lose that game. Then how about you have Pitt and Baltimore at 425, because all of a sudden that game becomes incredibly meaningful.
Right.
But then at the same time, maybe you put both games on at the same time to where, okay, don't worry about what Indianapolis is doing. Just y'all play it as hard as y'all can, because let's say you had Indianapolis wins at 1, and then Pittsburgh and Baltimore or at 425, and then they have nothing to play for.
Right. They automatically know they have no chance, because
Right.
that door would be slammed shut in
Right.
any case. So yeah, you're right. The last thing I'll ask before we move on, is there any one of these teams like down in the wild cards, these teams like the Eagles and the Colts, like these teams that they can't be division winners at this point? Or is there any team that's like, oh, you don't want to play them, like that, like quote unquote, like team you don't want to see, like we kind of talk about every year in the playoffs? Is there one of those teams this year, or is it all just kind of get what you get?
To me, I would say if you're talking about a team that probably is going to be on the wild card, I still am really high on the Colts. I still think they're. I mean, I know Tennessee's beat them twice, but I still think Indianapolis is the better team, and they have. I mean, Jonathan Taylor is in the MVP conversation. We know how well coached they are, on both sides of the ball. Frank Reich, he's got a really good, feel for, game management, fourth downs, and all the rest of it. So I think it's Indianapolis. To me, I think New England's a trendy one as well. But I think at this point, it's just a little bit too early, for the Mac Jones thing come playoff time. And we've seen, what we just saw, Mac Jones against Josh Allen with actual weather that you could throw the ball, and Mac Jones couldn't do it. So to me, I think New England's a little bit. I mean, New England and Indianapolis are similar teams in the fact that they lean on the run game very heavily. But to me, Carson Wentz is more capable of getting it done if you take the run away than Mac Jones. That's where I'm at. And in the NFC, I mean, to me, whatever team doesn't win an NFC West is gonna still be, a serious problem. Or they should. I mean, to me, I think it's the Rams that's the clear, best team in that division. I'm not as comfortable with Arizona because their run defense is so suspect. But whichever team does not win that division, whoever's in that 4 seed, if it's Dallas, Tampa Bay, whoever it is, they're gonna have a real fight on their hands.
Yeah, and real quick, I would say the Colts too. I think the running game aspect's a big part of it. You go win in cold weather, no matter where you are, if you got that kind of running game, and that Colts defense is ridiculously opportunistic. I mean, Darius Leonard has more turnovers by himself than some NFL like teams do as a whole. I mean, it's crazy. So if you can run the ball and generate turnovers in the playoffs, man, you're a dangerous team to look out for. And the Eagles on the other side of the ball, I don't know if I want to play the Eagles. Things are clicking. Sometimes it's just health and things are going right, and sometimes that's enough.